Okay, we're live.
Okay, yay. Okay, welcome. Welcome to our fourth year thesis exhibition entitled Epilogue. We're really excited to have everyone here. Before I start, I will state that if there is any questions within the live stream event, that it will have a slight lag to when we can actually reply. So we will get to your question, so don't feel like it will be missed. It's just sometimes it'll take us a process to get to it. But yeah, so my name's Madison Corneau. I'll be the MC tonight, and I'm just going to go over how this virtual opening is going to occur. So first, we're going to do our territorial acknowledgements, and then we are going to do some thank yous and some just brief explanation as to the process of what's going on. Then we'll have some opening remarks from our special guests. We'll have some artist talks, as well as the Curatorial's Choice Award will be presented tonight. And then we'll have a small Q&A session and probably some Q&As during the artist talks if there's anything that comes up. And then we'll do our final toast and thank yous. So to get us started, I would like to start with our territorial acknowledgement. The University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people's land. Our main campus is situated on the Hall Diamond Track, the land guaranteed to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is centralized within the Office of Indigenous Relations. We would also like to recognize that we on our website have links for these Six Nations support resources. So if anyone is interested to have further research on this or just more explanation as to how this is working, please go visit those. As young artists, we live and create in this territory, and we recognize the importance of understanding both our place in the history and context of this land. Upon their arrival in Canada, European settlers began enacting large-scale violence towards the Métis, Inuit, and First Nations, who prior to contact lived peacefully. So colonial violence is complex and is very much alive in the systems that make up Canada today. Especially our Canadian society. We are highlighting with this generate conversation and like learning, care, and action. So we invite you along with us to think about the past and the present social political relationships among us, Indigenous and settler peoples, with and on the land that you engage with our work today. So after that, we would also like to thank, before we start, this process would have not been possible without the Faculty of Arts at the University of Waterloo, our Department of Fine Arts. We have also the UAG support, the Arts Endowment Fund. So like the funding for this equipment was generously provided by the Arts Endowment Fund. All of our Top Line Farms was a huge supporter. Zofia Simzak was also, and thank you to everyone who supported us on the GoFundMe. It made everything possible for today, and we're very excited to have this virtual opening as well as people can go in person at the Fine Arts Department building to go visit our work. So to get back into the opening, after thanking everyone, I would really like to introduce opening remarks from our special guests. So I'd really like to start with Monica Leone, which is our chair of the Fine Arts Department. She has advocated for us this year to get here, and we're just super excited to welcome her. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. And it's been wonderful just to hear about your progress and to see this show take place. I'm really, really pleased to be here. I've prepared a couple of remarks, and it really hit me, the name of your show. I just love it. I love the name of it, Epilogue, and I know and I love how your definition of it creates a sense of movement from the current to the future. You've written that in some ways, epilogue marks the end of an era here at the University of Waterloo, but in other ways, it can be seen as a starting point of your new artistic journeys. If we look up the traditional definition, we'll see something that says, an epilogue is a literary device that functions as a supplemental but separate part of the main story. It is often used to reveal the fates of the characters in a story and wrap up any loose ends. But your definition is much more exciting because you are not trying to wrap up the loose ends, but rather you're trying to follow them to the next chapter, not knowing where they will lead you or what shape they will take. Your time in our department has been marked by many challenges, and the lessons you have learned in this most unique of times will carry you and will inspire future work. And despite these challenges, you have followed your passions and have developed your practices and have produced a show that is beautiful and compelling. And now as artists, your gifts carry with them a responsibility to remember this time and to represent all that you have learned during it. I'm going to quote a writer that I love. He's an Argentinian writer. He was born in 1899, passed away in 1986. His name is Jorge Luis Borges. You should check him out sometime if you can. He was an essayist, poet, and translator, and he had this to say about artists. And I paraphrase and translate, so it's not exactly, but I'm doing my best. Jorge Luis Borges says, "The task of art is to transform what is continuously happening to us, to transform all these things into symbols, into music, into something which can last in our memory. That is our duty. If we don't fulfill it, we feel unhappy. A writer or any artist has the sometimes joyful duty to transform all of that into symbols. And these symbols can be colors, forms, or sounds. For a poet, the symbols are sounds, and also words, fables, stories, and poetry. The work of an artist never ends, but it has nothing to do with working hours. You are continuously receiving things from the external world, and these things must be transformed. This revelation can happen to you at any time. An artist never rests. They are always working, even when they dream. And besides, the life of an artist can be a lonely one. You think you are alone, and as the years go by, if the stars are on your side, you may discover that you are at the center of a vast circle of invisible friends whom you will never get to know, but who love you. And that is an immense reward." I just love that. But tonight, the reward is ours. And we are very fortunate because we are in your circle of invisible friends. So thank you for sharing your work with us tonight. Congratulations and best of luck to you in the future. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Monica. That was beautifully said. We very much appreciate everything. Next, we will hear from Tara. Tara Cooper was our fall term professor. She enthusiastically helped us develop our thesis plans and proposals for this year, and the results of which you can see in our gallery spaces today. So please welcome Tara.
All right. Well, thanks, Madison. So glad to be here. And I got a little ditty here that I wrote that I'm going to read, but maybe I'll ad-lib a little bit at the end too. Anyways, here's my thoughts. This past fall, I made a series of videos with my husband, Terry, for the Waterloo Region Arts Awards. And one of the winners said something that was really sticky for me. It was Pam Patel, the current director for Empty Space, a local theater company that centralizes marginalized and racialized artists and stories. She said we must operate from a place of abundance, not scarcity. I found this both moving and helpful, a comment that I keep coming back to. Being an artist is hard, coming up with robust ideas, figuring out all of the tech stuff, and then trying to find a way to make it financially viable. And facing all of the mixed upness of our current world and future is likewise hard. But these fourth-year students have operated from a place of abundance. Abundance in their myriad outputs: installation, collage, digital arts, painting, sculpture, photography, print, video, textiles, performance, book arts. There's even a social practice piece based on the idea of bartering, a kind of gift exchange economy. And abundance in their subject matter that for me imparts an equal abundance of feelings, from sorrow, anxiety, fear, and sadness, right through to love, joy, and appreciation for beauty. One of the things I love about teaching is how much I learn from my students. And recently, Sarah Gallerno, one of our second-year MFA students, told me about the genre of solar punk. And I wanted to share an excerpt from a quote by YouTuber Saint Andrewism, because his succinct words get to the heart of what solar punk is all about. Quote, It's a futurism that focuses on what we should hope for rather than what to avoid. Solar punk recognizes that climate change, the consequences of centuries of damage, aren't averted in the future. And of course, I could also add the pandemic and the current state in Ukraine right now with that. The quote goes on, yet it still manages to incorporate hope. A future where we got a lot of work to do, but we're doing better. We're using technology for more uplifting ends, like seed bombing drones and solar ovens. Solar punk emphasizes real world application. It's all about what we do here and now. For me, walking through epilogue yesterday was like walking through hope. And I can see a lot of solar punk in all of you. So as your fourth year teacher from the fall, I first wanted to thank all of the parents and friends who supported you, the behind the scenes people that I never met, unless it was in the background of one of our Zoom meetings. And then I wanted to thank all of you for showing up, for sharing, and for getting it done. It was such a pleasure to work with you. So here's a big warm virtual hug and a heartfelt congratulations. Bravo, you did it. All right, that's it.
Thanks so much, Tara. Wonderfully said. Yes, online learning was an experience, but I think you helped us get it through it much easier. Thank you. So thirdly, we will hear from Lois Anderson. So Lois is our winter term professor and worked diligently to help us plan and curate our exhibition. We're very excited that she was there for us this term, and we felt very special for her to be advocating and making sure everything was running smoothly. She did a lot of behind the scenes. So yes, please presenting Lois.
Thank you, Madison. It's nice to follow such amazing words by Monica and Tara. So I think I'm going to start with acknowledging up front the amount of blood, sweat, and possibly tears that students have poured into mounting this exhibition and to make this event happen. It takes a village, and I would be really amiss if I did not thank all the people that helped us along the way. And I know the students are going to do this at the end. But personally, I'd like to thank Monica Leone and Sharon Dahmer for the administrative support, Adam Glover, Jean Stevenson, Laura Leslie, Rick Nixon, and Timothy Water for technical assistance, Sarah Kernahan for installation, and Scott Lee for documentation. And then there's Sarah Martin, our TA, for her ongoing support for both me and the students. So I'm going to play a presentation while I read a text that I wrote, and it's about the shared creative experience. The visuals will give you some indication of what happens behind the scenes. So if I can share my screen and play from the start. Okay. So behind the scenes, on that note, what I want to say is for all of you out there behind the scenes, I want to thank each and every parent, sibling, aunt or uncle, grandparent, friend, teacher who has ever encouraged a child or a student while celebrating, giving confidence to, or enabling their creative power. Those of you who told your child or your friend that they are special because they can express themselves creatively, you are the best. If you, as an individual, grew up in poverty, in conflict, in a home where things were not so good, you may know what I mean when I say that art can be a means of survival, a tool. Creative agency gives each student here a voice, an opening, and it is their own. Come to the exhibition and you will see there are so many stories and perspectives on what it means to live in this world. Some of them will make you laugh, others may break your heart. You'll be immersed in new worlds, connecting to lived experience. You may be projected into the future while seeing the past fleshed out. The journey for the students in this exhibition has not been an easy one. On top of COVID, most of the students have had to work. And on top of it, they've had more than one demanding professor. One of those might be me. I'm demanding because I want my students to experience what it means to go deep and succeed, to get to that point when no matter what anyone says to you about your work, you can keep on going. Self-belief or belief in self, I believe in each of you. To everyone here, please continue to support culture. Artists labor for the most part unpaid. Help them in ways that you can. Financial is only one small part of the equation. Acceptance is a greater. Their vocation is to process and record the world, their time, our time. Remember that they have much to tell us, much to teach us. Please come see the exhibition in person if you can. Art is experiential. There's so much emotion and material language that can only be conveyed and received by standing in front of a work. Look into their self-portraits. Look at their paintings, their prints. What is the narrative? How are they representing their emotions, themselves? Look at their sculptures, their installations. How do they hold space? How do they hold meaning? Epilogue. No matter what path these thesis students take, whatever field they end up going into, their time that they spent in East Campus Hall will not be forgotten. Creativity is a lifelong journey. We hope to see you in ECH. In any case, please stay in touch.
Thank you so much, Lois. That was a very beautiful presentation.
Thank
Also,
you
I would like
all.
to thank you for showing all those installation shots. It was a very long process, and thank you everyone for helped out and did all these behind the scenes works. So next we will have our artist talks. So you'll actually hear from 3 students. So Alyssa McDonald, Santosh, and Natalie. Each of them have also prepared a brief presentation about their work. And they'll also have a brief Q&A after each presentation if there are some questions, just for everyone who's watching. So can we please welcome Alyssa McDonald to do her presentation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alyssa, and I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my work I did this semester. I created a triptych titled Impasse, and it consists of 3 still lifes on 16 by 20 inch panels and are meant to be seen as a continuous piece. I have depicted thoughts on 3 subjects that I have been stuck on and trying to form opinions on as a young adult, and the scenes I have created capture these thoughts frozen in time. Visually, the works are connected through color, lighting, and objects that are repeated in multiple scenes. I have oversaturated the colors in a way that is kind of disorienting. And as for the subject of the work, I'm going to start with inherent here. It depicts the contradictions in how I present myself versus how I regard femininity as a imposition. And then the second one here, invigorate, presents the conflict I feel between healthy living and the harmful messages that are presented as fact. And then the last one here, titled isolate, I demonstrate the disconnect I feel in actively existing instead of observing life complacently. And overall, I wanted to confront feelings through these works, and I really enjoyed sort of exploring my palette doing this. All right.
All right, thank you, Alyssa. I'm just gonna buffer for a few seconds to see if there may be some questions about the artwork. If not, we will move on. I say we're gonna move on unless otherwise noted. So we'll get back to questions if they do come up. Thanks, Alyssa. Next up is Santosh. Santosh, can you please present your presentation?
That sounds good. I hope my screen is visible. Let me just, perfect. So hello, everyone. I am Santosh, and it's so nice to meet all of you virtually. Um, I'm going to just take a moment to thank everyone for this incredible opportunity. I couldn't be more grateful to be talking about my work, and also listening to everybody else, their comments, their feedback. And I'm not sure how to follow up with all of this gratitude, but it's just truly a great collaborative effort. My work is titled Human Canvas Presence Vasudeva Aikshita. Um, Before we get into the work itself, I would talk a little bit about my alter ego, the human canvas. The human canvas, as I see him, is ever changing. He is dynamic and objective. My multicultural identity has always been something very difficult to accommodate and understand because they're overlapping and ever changing. When I first created the human canvas, he allowed me to deal with that dynamism. But most importantly, the human canvas is a storyteller. This takes me to my work itself, Human Canvas Presence, Vasudeva Aikshita. Vasudeva Aikshita, or Vasudeva Saw, is based on 5 stories about Lord Krishna, 4 depicted through the installations as a visual anthology, and 1 through the performance. The performance is structured very traditionally with a small prayer and a narrative interwoven with songs underpinned by a philosophical context. Light is the most important and prominent medium in the installation because of its use across cultures to depict the idea of God or divinity or denote a sense of spirituality. This places the work beyond any religious discourse and focuses on a sense of universalism, which is the main goal of my project. As a double majoring in VCult as well, I had an opportunity to approach this project visual culturally, approach it visual culturally and artistically to create a project that goes back to discourses on colonialism, post-colonialism, Indian art history, and tap into the wealth of ancestral knowledge that I've been lucky enough to receive from my parents, my grandparents, gurus, and everybody else. And I also thank the department at this moment to give me that flexibility to work across 2 majors and create a dynamic project, because I feel if I had not had that flexibility, the way it materialized wouldn't have been possible. The positioning of the human canvas in a Canadian setting allows him to present the trauma of colonialism and Eurocentrism from an Indian Middle Eastern point of view, while creating a conversation about agency and reconciliation. Through this project, the human canvas metastasized into a literal storyteller, and I'm excited to see what holds for him in the future. My goal with Vasudeva Aikshita is to deconstruct Orientalism through artistic approaches that critique while at the same time offer an engaging and immersive experience. I believe that it is important to instill a sense of hope in trying times, which is the main moral behind every story that I've presented. Lastly, once again, I would thank everybody for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and looking forward to hearing others talk too. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh. It was really, really nice to hear about your installation procedures and how you approach this work. So thank you again. Our next artist talk will be Natalie. Once again, if there's any questions, we will get to them. Hopefully someone will flag me down and tell me. But we'll move on from now. And if there is more, we can go back at the end and discuss them. So up next is Natalie.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I was muted. So I'll start from the beginning. I'm Natalie Ray. I'm a multidisciplinary artist and I'm from Woodstock, Ontario. And I focus in mixed media and graphic design. So I'll just turn the slideshow on. So I feel like the most common question I've ever been asked as an artist is like, when you meet someone, they're like, oh my goodness, you're an artist, can you draw me? So this is what they kind of expect you to draw. And then I end up drawing this. And then they're like, oh my gosh, why would you think of drawing me that way? But then I always kind of get a good giggle out of it. And that first interaction that I had kind of sparked the connections that I made with family and friends. And then I had family and friends start to ask me to doodle them. So that's how the connection of this work kind of started, was through that interaction. So when I make design specifically, I try to create some sort of emotional connection, specifically in the sense of humorous and or like a literal connection to the body of work, which they can relate to. And in that sense, I try to focus on the research and the connection in that sense as well as growth. So the body of work that I created is one element, seamless interconnectivity. And I read a quote from Charlie Gear, which says, digital media attempts to present us with visual and other experiences far from discrete. And he talks about media and how we interact with it to become part of a milieu. And due to that, it encourages seamless interconnectivity as well as touching and grasping through our senses. And to me, when I read through that, I kind of felt that graphic design is really approachable. And in some ways, it's invisible in our public sphere and in our social spheres, that we subconsciously interact with it and we create a connection with it. And due to that, we're then impacted by the environments that we're in. And so I kind of wanted to bring that graphic design element and how we interact with it in our public sphere and bring that into an exhibition space and see how people interact with it that way. So I wanted to combine the two environments with the hope to create a conscious and literal connection between the viewer and me. So with my first installment, I started with the drawings of my friends and family. And then I took that connection and I took the feedback that I got from those drawings and I created a book out of it. So this is my book. And it's based off of and inspired by relational aesthetics, which is what I discovered after receiving that feedback. So relational aesthetics is a way of making art based on inspired by other art, human experiences, connections, relations, and social contexts. So these drawings are based off of my family and friends, funny experiences, documented photos, videos, and stories, old past photographs of me and some of my cousins or my brothers. And it's based off of those really funny experiences that I cried, laughed over. So everything that I've drawn has happened in real life. And so then from there, I took the feedback from that book and how my classmates and profs and critiques and took that feedback, and everyone was saying they want to see it in different types of publications. They want to see it on a big wall. They want to see it in sticker form. So I took that to the next level, and that's what I created my second installment, which was my exhibition space and my installation. So my installation is a body of work made out of mural prints, stickers, bags, and clothes and carpets. And I made this using vinyl and textile work, as well as a punch needle carpet and some other homemade goods too. And I tried to use storytelling as much as possible based on my life, so that to see how people interact with it, to create an ambiguous enough environment to see if other people will interact with it the same way that I do, and or to see if people can relate to it with their own funny stories or memories. And my goal is to take this work to the next level through relational aesthetics by seeing how people interact with it in the exhibition space and transfer that into possibly a third book or another body of work that resembles how people responded to the exhibition space, how they interact with it, how it made them feel, and kind of go from there and take that and into my future practice. I think for me, the most important thing when I do my artwork is that I go from my gut, and whatever I feel at the moment, then I do it. And that's kind of how my drawings and doodles and text and mark making happened. And that's how this installation came about. It's kind of just an explosion on the wall that came from my heart, and I hope that other people engage with it the same way. At the end of the day, I think my whole experience through this is learning about the little things and how the little things can really connect people and bring people together. And this course has been that entire experience for sure, especially this year with everyone. And as well through the memories that I have that I've experienced in creating this, as well as through COVID and taking care of the little things that mean the most. So that's kind of what this, I think at the end, this body of work really resembled. So yeah, that's kind of it.
Thank you, Natalie. I see that we do have some questions. Miranda, you might have to read the questions queued up on the YouTube, as I don't currently have that open for me to get that information. So if you want to do that one, and then I have another question that I can do before that. So Tara actually had something for Alyssa. So it says, I like how you used your still life as subject and genre to tell your story. It makes me think of some of the historic origins of still life, such as the Vations in memoirs, which speak to the trans science of life. So just picture some of the paintings from the 1600s with all of those skulls, fruits, and flowers. So what are some of the symbols or signifiers that are embedded in the objects that you chose to paint?
Yeah, so in the first painting, Inherent, that has the boot and the glass in it, I chose a glass that my grandmother had been given for her wedding, and included my own bra strap peeking out there, and then also one of my personal boots to just sort of, sorry, I'm just trying to collect my thoughts. So the first piece does connect to femininity, hence my bra strap. And I originally had a high heel instead of a boot, but I felt that was not me and not sort of personal how I wanted to create my works this semester. I definitely wanted to sort of depict my own thoughts and feelings. So I switched that out for one of my old worn boots that I had. And the marbles just sort of represents more childlike aspects and like things I used to play with as a child. And then the next scene that depicts a grapefruit and pills sort of ties back to sort of health and sort of contradicting aspects. Along with that, there's a rose bowl in that piece that is a piece that my mom and my dad had set out at tables for a sort of a table piece. So I've included that to tie back in with some family aspects that I've experienced in the past with my family. And then my last piece that contains the pomegranate and the jug, it definitely ties back to how I sort of feel disconnected from my own sexuality and femininity. The jug is actually a old piece from my mom's side of the family from Austria, and sort of ties back to seeing through a lens, as I have a camera sort of peeking out behind that jug, and it's definitely is sort of trying to show the distance between from what I observe and what I feel. I hope that sort of clears up a few things.
Yeah, thanks, Alyssa. Yeah, that's really nice to hear those kind of more, yeah, the kind of family links and how the objects carry this. And I was just thinking when you were talking, of course, can't take the teacher out of me, right? So then I was like, oh, because I noticed in the catalog how, like in the show, because we're tight for space, you had them stacked.
Yes.
But I noticed in the catalog how they're horizontal, right, lined up. Or somewhere there that, I don't know if that was catalog, somewhere I saw that they're lined up. And I really loved how you line up the table, right? So it's like one piece, even though each one is separate. And when you were talking, I was like, oh, I mean, this could go on, right? I was like, oh, what if you had like 18 of these like same size? And then the table could kind of keep going.
Mhm.
Then there could even be a shift, because I love the kind of pink pastel candy and the undertones in it, but you could actually have almost like a color shift as well across this set. It would be cool if it even went around, if it was in a gallery, like if it went around the whole room for the one table, and then there was like these, each one was kind of based but then connected. Yeah, anyways, I think this came up in the crit, but I was excited. I was like, whose are those? Because it was so different from what you had last term.
Yes.
So yeah, so I was yeah, I was kind of pleasantly surprised at the turn that this term took for you.
Thank you. Those ideas are definitely with the continuing of the work. I definitely have sort of thought about like exploring different color palettes and whatnot to sort of contrast this work. So yeah, that's definitely sort of what I'm planning to do.
Nice.
Thanks, Alyssa. There was actually some comments too about your pomegranate is very powerful and the symbol of life, fertility, and death. I have to agree. It also came up in our crit with Alyssa about how like the pills and the grapefruit itself is like for the other image is also contradicting like with how it doesn't work with medication, but it's somehow still complementary in her paintings. So we thought that was very interesting. And there's also another comment, Alyssa, saying that your paintings are mediated by light and photographic reproduction. So how does this affect the reading of your paintings?
So I definitely wanted it to feel a bit more manufactured and sort of very planned out. I definitely manipulated the images to carry shadows and lights into the next scene sort of and have it visually connected more than it originally was in the original photos. I definitely originally wanted the paintings to be like sort of horizontal rather than like vertical, just to like show the sort of looking at a scene in the gallery. But I found that it definitely looked better stacked. And I would say that this sort of like reads as a film strip of sorts, because you like see each individual one sort of stacked on one another. That does feel sort of like reproduced in sort of like a graphic feel to it. I definitely played around with color to sort of create like blocks of color, as I do have sort of a digital background as well. And I definitely think that sort of comes across in the paintings.
Wonderfully said, Alyssa. Thank you. For Santosh, we actually have a few questions. Your first question was, someone was very interested in what inspired you to do this work. I was wondering if you can talk about that.
Yes, for sure. To talk about like the inspirations for my work, it would be quite long, but I would say that it was just an exploration of myself, my identity. For me, the way I see my work, it's almost like a self-portrait, and it's kind of like, it kind of makes more sense to have it it kind of reads that way with myself being in the installation itself. And for me, it's just about an exploration of my identity, being an immigrant child, being a third culture child, and trying to bring something from my background to the new space that I'm in here in Canada, and also acknowledge the different indigenous cultures here, and their history, their trauma. It's about creating a conversation. That was mainly my inspiration.
Thank you. There's also another question, Santosh, about if you can talk about the pattern more on your installation.
The patterns themselves are actually from hymns from various scriptures that tell the story itself. So the patterns are like made using audio frequencies of different hymns from different scriptures that talk about the stories. And my idea was to use that as a background to have the installations themselves to kind of like lay on it. And there's also a strong influence of like Islamic geometry in the work itself, because growing up in the Middle East, that was the visuality that I saw more prominently. And for me, it was just about incorporating all of those elements and creating something that's more universal and not pertains to a particular culture or a particular location, so to speak.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So this is a question for all of the artist presenters. If any or all of you want to answer this, someone asked, how do you feel that your art was influenced by other students or other artists' work?
I can talk about it if you want. So for me, I feel like the engagement in the studio once we were back in the studio was really special. Like the ability to go and not just critique, but be able to help each other out a lot of the time. For me, it was very, very interactive. It was a lot of me going to Madison, literally everyone in class, but like Madison, Maggie, everyone in the website committee. I was like constantly sending photos and videos being like, should I do this? How should I do this? What do you think? Should it be bigger? Should it be smaller? And so their opinions and kind of advice were really helpful in terms of my installation-based work. And then, like I said, their feedback and critiques on how they want to see the work evolve really impacted the relational aesthetics aspect of my work. I would say in terms of digital media, Rebecca taught me a lot because she also is digital based and works a lot in text as well. Different styles, but she definitely does that satirical humor as well in her work too, that kind of poking fun at some stuff as well. So her work, I definitely could be inspired by and related to. And then in terms of outside of school, I would say Royal Art Lodge and David Shrigley, Ed Pien are my big like illustrator influences, as well as my brother. And then for the artist books, it would be like Art Metropole and then my other brother. So they're kind of helping me out and influencing me in that sense, just by being around them and learning from them. And so that's definitely where my inspo came from outside of school.
Yeah, I would have to agree, Natalie. Like, I feel like we have this really good community within our classroom where we can just go up to anyone and like get real like answers and like criticisms and like conversations going. And I feel like it just helps everyone's artistic practice. Does any of the other presenters would like to answer that question, or? If you guys are good, I can just read some of the other comments. There's a small question, Santosh. Lois was interested in if you can talk about how your narrative extends to the podcast within your installation.
That's actually a great question. That's something that I forgot to mention in my talk as well. Thank you, Lois, for pointing that out. But the podcast itself is just is my way of giving more context and just using using the human canvas to tell more stories. Like it's just since storytelling has been like a very important aspect of my work, I was really motivated to add that element just to provide more context to my installations. And because it presents itself in an audio format, it has more visual cultural influences as well, like talking about land acknowledgements and the importance to show some gratitude to the land that we're in, and a lot of other philosophical contexts as well, in terms of understanding, in terms of like forgiveness and a sense of universal love and all of those kind of emotions. It's just another small exploration where I was able to tell more stories with the human canvas.
Thank you, Santosh. There is a question for Natalie. First of all, they said great work, Natalie. They noticed you've used a lot of thin lines, so they wanted to know if you can talk about the importance of that in your work.
Sure. So when I first started, I was just drawing them digitally. I had no idea that it would transition into like a huge installation, which the thin line kind of worked to my disadvantage in that sense when I started working with vinyl stuff, and I realized that it's so hard when it's so thin. But when I was first drawing them, I really wanted to play with text and negative space in terms of just like black on white paper, especially on 8.5 by 11, like just regular printer paper. So I wanted to see how that interacted with just like individual pops of color. I didn't want to be too texty to the point that it's like really graphic designy. Like I still wanted to have that doodle illustrative essence to it that gives not a literal reference to graphic design where you kind of contemplate, is this a drawing? Is this a digital media type form? So I think that's kind of where I started with that, and just wanting to pretend like I'm just drawing right on paper. And then in terms of taking that into the installation space, I still wanted to play with that negative space and bring that onto the wall. So with vinyl, you get that negative space between the white wall and the black. And then with adding those textures that came off of the wall, it made the line work even more cool. So I think in the back of my mind, maybe I was prepping for that. But I think I was mostly trying to play with negative space as much as possible in terms of my line work, if that makes any sense.
No, that's perfect. Before Tara asks her question, there's one more for you, Natalie. So first of all, you're getting complimented. So everyone's very happy with your graphic design and how your artwork looks, but they're very curious in how you envision this in a gallery run by you. So what would this community look like?
That's a really hard question. It's funny, in our interview questions on the website, I actually mentioned something that I wanted to create in the future, like an artist-run gallery or something that's kind of a collective. In terms of artists that have connected with in the past, I'm really big on creating connection. So I think that an artist-run gallery would be important in terms of that, where you get that collaboration and that atmosphere. I personally wouldn't want a gallery of all of my work. I would rather it be a gallery of my work and other people's work and see how they interact with each other. Like I said, I'm big on connection. So I think that that's probably how I would envision it to be. I would definitely do a mix between graphic design and people that do more illustrative stuff in terms of just regular fine art and drawing and such. But I'm open to anything. But I definitely could see some sort of mixed media collab between fine art and graphic design as a gallery space. I think that would be really cool.
Go ahead, Tara. You can ask your questions.
Okay. So yeah, I got one for you, Natalie. So I was pretty stoked to see your punch hook. I was like, finally, because I know we had there was a couple people, and I had really wanted to show you guys how to do punch hook, and I didn't get to it. So I don't know. I just wanted to hear about the punch hook. I don't know if you have much to add. I mean, I saw you doing it in one of the shots too. Lois circulated, but yeah.
I watched a YouTube video and I followed a couple artists that do it. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And I wanted to do it prior to us even like talking about it, but I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I would have enough time. And then the YouTube videos were like, yeah, you'll have enough time. And that was a lie. It took me forever, but it was really fun. I just watched TV and do it. I think the biggest thing, and Madison can attest to this, and so can Sarah Martin, our TA, and Lois. But when I was finished, I didn't want it to be punched. I wanted it to be cut. And like, I didn't want it to be loops. I wanted it to be cut. And I was like, I don't know if I can do it. And I was so scared because the back of it looks so nice, but you have to cover the back in order to cut it. And I was like, I do not want to do that. Like, I don't want to ruin it. Like, I'm so scared because if I mess it up, it's done. Like, it won't be part of, and then I've wasted all that money. And I was just like, what do I do? And so I reached out to a couple of punch needle artists, and they were like, you just have to get this adhesive. If you do it, it'll work. Just be careful, and your hand's gonna hurt when you cut. So I cut with scissors, and I didn't cut the whole thing. I just cut the details. So that was fun seeing it actually work, but it was definitely like a weeks long debate of me going like, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm not like, so, but it did end up looking really good. So that was good, at least. I'm glad that I did it.
Tara, do you have a question for Santosh as well?
I do. So Santosh, yeah, it was exciting to see it come together. And I was wondering, okay, this might be a little, I don't know, not on the money. But okay, so we talked a lot about this theatrics. We've talked a lot about that, you know, last term and even at the beginning of this term. And I was just wondering about the lighting because I don't know, there's something kind of humorous about the lighting. I mean, it's a bit Vegas maybe, but I actually never been to Vegas, or I don't know. I was just thinking like, is it kitsch but I think for me, there is something with the lighting, especially like how it changes, right? And then it like, they trickle along and kind of like the whole thing lights up. And so I found that really compelling. But it does kind of brush up against these other things, just in terms of the kinds of light. I think it's because it's that strip. I don't know. I'd have to think it through a bit more, but I just was wondering your thoughts on that.
That's actually a great question because towards the end of it, that's something that came to my mind as well. But for me, when I started working with light, it was with a strong philosophical context in terms of representation of divinity and you know, this idea of God and spirituality and all of that. But as it evolved, I think with just the use of LEDs and the way it kind of switches around, it kind of, in a way, places the work in a more contemporary time. Like I think that was something that I didn't think about because when I pictured the work, it was always supposed to be in a mystified environment with a lot of theatrics and just playing off of that visuality of Orientalist paintings and just reinforcing the spectator once in as much as possible. But then like with the LEDs coming in and the last few exposed LEDs that I added as well, it kind of like just made it more contemporary, made it more of a language that I would say, like, for lack of a better word, people of my generation would understand, because it's those kind of LEDs are almost everywhere, and it kind of like, to bring it into this mystified space almost ended up being pretty ironic as well.
Thank you, Santosh. Lois did have a little comment about the light breaks the sacred wall and brings in the popular culture aspect. So I have to agree. Awesome. I think that's all of our questions. So thank you, Alyssa, Santosh, and Natalie for sharing your artistic practice and your thesis work. I know for a fact like this term was not ideal with our online and in-person setups, but I think these works are really amazing examples of how our class has pushed with our creative outlets, and regardless of these COVID restrictions, and we all have triumphed. So thank you again. So we will move forward with Ivan and the Curatorial Choice Award. So thank you for everyone also for their engaging questions. I think they're really nice to add to the talk. So now we'll hear from Ivan. He's the director and the curator of the University of Waterloo's Art Gallery. He's joining us tonight to say a few words and to announce the winner of this Curatorial Choice Award.
Thank you, Madison. And thanks to the entire class as well, and to everyone who's joined us this evening. Since 2014, it has been my great pleasure to select a candidate or candidates on behalf of the University of Waterloo Art Gallery whose work has shown consistent growth and development on both a material and on a conceptual level over the course of their 4th year senior thesis studio. While the last year has certainly been challenging for all of us, but I think particularly for the 4th year studio class who has not had access to regular studios, but it has also been great to see the class persevere and continue their studio work despite and in spite of and under extremely trying circumstances. So my congratulations go to all of you for your tenacity and your vision and for following through and doing such an excellent job with the exhibition epilogue. So there was a lot of work that I was very impressed with this year. And I've had several opportunities to first engage with the students online to a degree, and then also to actually see the works in person as they were being installed over the last few weeks in East Campus Hall. So rather than have a single curatorial choice award, I've also made the decision in consultation with instructor Lois Anderson that there are several honorable mentions as well as a curatorial choice award. Under the circumstances, I think this was an equitable way to deal with things, but also I think to acknowledge the fact that this was a challenging time and to acknowledge the really hard work that a lot of people put into their work. So the first of the honorable mentions is for a body of artwork that encompasses performance, light, and multimedia as a storytelling medium in which to explore and share an artist's identity, spirituality, and their culture. Please join me in congratulating Santosh Sandrakasar for his artwork, The Human Canvas Presents Vasudeva Aksata. Congratulations, Santosh. So thank you. We will continue from there. The second honorable mention was for a body of work that impressed me by fusing traditional printmaking techniques with digital technology to create evocative artworks that tell a very personal story about memory, loss, and impermanence. So please join me in congratulating Larissa Ward for her series of work, I Remember.
Woohoo!
Congratulations, Larissa. I thought it was a very, very, very powerful and meaningful work. Again, it was nice to see a kind of a progress between things that we were seeing happen on the Padlet online, and then the way they were kind of being, they were coming to life, really, for lack of a better word, as I saw them installed in the gallery. So again, congratulations. And so in closing, it is my great pleasure to announce this year's winner of the Curator's Choice Award for a rigorous body of work that is developed in multiple mediums over time, including digital print media and sculpture, and the work that is based on tracing, mapping, walking, and contingency. Please join me in congratulating Wen Lee for her NET series.
Yay!
Congratulations, Wen. Very impressed to see the body of work develop, particularly from print to seeing the earliest versions of the felt sculptures, the tracings that were hanging in the hallways, and to see the way that work came together at the end was very moving. So again, congratulations to Santosh, to Larissa, and to Wen. And also really to the rest of the class for really pulling out all the stops over the last 2 weeks and putting together an impressive exhibition. And thank you for inviting me to your event.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Congratulations, Wen, again. That's super exciting. And congratulations to all the honorable mentions. That's really, really awesome that it was a difficult process, I feel like. So congratulations again, Wen. So I think we can do this live Q&A if anyone has questions, potentially for Wen, or anything else you have about our fine arts experiences. While you're putting those in, though, I would really like to do all of our thank yous before we wrap up the evening. We want to bring out our sincere, heartfelt thanks to all of these following people for making our year of artwork and experience in our exhibition such a success. So we want to have a special thank you to Monica Leone, our fine arts chair, who has spoke to us so graciously in the beginning of our live virtual meetings, and Tara Cooper, Ashley Gannett, Lois Anderson, Sarah Martin, Adam Glover, Rick Nixon, and Timothy Walker. These group of people specifically were very integrated within our installation as well, and just helping artists individually with making our art pieces come together, and structurally how things should work and function within the curatorial processes of figuring out what looks good. So thank you again. I would also like to thank the staff and within our facility. Some of them have given us lectures and have given us private talks and just helped us within our artistic journeys. So I'd like to thank Donna Cray, Veronica Carter, Matthew Carver, Cora Cluett, Joan Coutu, Sharon Dahmer, Robert Dunick, Natalie Hunter, Doug Curtin, Ivan Jurek, Laura Leslie, Logan McDonald, Brett Roberts, Jean Stevenson, Zofia Zimek, Bruce Taylor, Jessica Thompson, and Boyivana Vidikun. So thank you again. We'd also like to thank all of the MFA students. They have graciously given us curatorial, or even during our crits, they've given us good advice and criticism and just kind of blessing us with their artistic journeys as well to help us with this process. So we'd like to send a special thanks out to Christine DeVoe, Brent Garbett, Sarah Gennaro, Ashley Gannett, Julie Hall, Jacob Irish, Clara Loretta, Sarah Martin, and Sarah Pearson, Amberly Williams, and Stephanie Florence. Thank you again for coming out to all of our classes and out of your way to give us some information and just some background on our own works. Also, we'd like to thank all of our other guest lecturers and mentors for just giving us information beyond this, our undergraduate journey, and to further explore more. So we'd like to say a thank you to Cara Chambers, Paul Diggin, Iona Dragomir, Alice Juan, Rusan Carr, Warren Lebovics, Logan McDonald, Amar Pope, Jessica Thompson, and Katarina Viljovic. Thank you again. They were very helpful lectures, especially about all of the artist talks and just their own explorations in art journeys. And we'd also like to spend a special thank you to our installation and documentation to Sarah Kernahan and Scott Lee. And also we'd like to say thank you to all of our GoFundMe supporters during our academic studies, our family, our friends, our own colleagues. Thank you to my classmates. I wouldn't have done this without any of you. I feel like this online supporting system is amazing, and I'm glad we did it. So I want to just double check if there's any last questions. I don't think there is, but I could always be wrong. None yet, no questions yet, but they may come. So maybe I'll do my little toast, just in case. We can wait, but I want to do my toast, everyone. So I do have this little quote that I wanted to read. It's very, very short, but I found this quote in my beginning of my journey within the fine arts department. So it's by Thomas Merton, and it said, "Art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time." And I feel like this whole journey of doing online and in person, but finding this connection, even though it's through a screen, has been amazing. And I think my classmates can comment on that, how even though our journey to our artistic outlet may have been different, I still feel like it's been so successful. And I feel like we're so happy to have this epilogue exhibition in person and this virtual opening. So I have a pop can, but please raise a glass to have a toast. So cheers, and we did it. Awesome. Yeah, I just want to thank everyone again. I feel like this was such a successful night. Just waiting for some questions if they come up. Was there anything, did you like to say anything about winning the Curatorial Choice Award?
It is truly a surprise because thank you so much for all the support from all the professors and all my classmates and everyone in the fine art department. Because like Louise once mentioned, we're in the first year, but because of everything like a pandemic, we actually got the treatment of the MFA students. So we get all the supports, like more supports than anyone can get from their first year, like fourth year. And there are so many great artworks from our class, and I think everyone's work is deserve an award themselves, and I truly appreciate the acknowledgement. And I don't know, I'm not good at this, but thank you so much.
That's a wonderful one, honestly, beautifully said. It was brought to my attention to also advertise to come see our exhibition in person. You can go to our website, uwepilogue.com, and it's right on our front page. You can book to come in person it's on a calendar thing. You go in, sign up your name, and you'll get information sent to you as to the process to come into the building. We would love for everyone to come into person. Our catalogs will be there within Monday and Tuesday next week, so new people coming in can also grab a hold of those. Also, there's a comment for you when it's been, or for everyone, I guess, it's been a lovely celebration. So congratulations, everybody. Mm-hmm. So yeah, once again, please check out our website. The committee did a lot of great work, and really, really proud of how it looks. Amazing job, everyone. I don't know for anyone back at home, but or maybe potentially not within our social circles, but we all have to do all of this behind the scenes work as well, along with our professors and all of our other support systems. So like we curated the website, the catalogs, and our own art on top of all that. So I feel like congratulations, classmates. Like I'm so happy we did this very successfully.
I can attest to it. It was a lot of work that you guys were extremely organized, extremely committed. You just really embraced all aspects of the multidimensional universe of putting together an exhibition and making it fulfilling. So well done. Well done.
Yes. Oh, we have a comment from Tara and how she went to the exhibition yesterday and she really, really loved seeing everyone's work. Like Zoe's hinged books, Man Reed's giant, landscapes. Also Juliana's video and ceramic pieces, yes. And Sarah's wooden cottage, yeah, collage, sorry, yes.
Yeah, it was so fun for me because I kind of had this gap because I didn't know what you guys were doing, and then I guess get to see everything kind of all done. I was like, whoa, Sarah's wooden piece. I was like, that was a surprise, the collage. And yeah, it was really nice to see the ones that continued from first term and kind of like came together so holistically, and Miranda's painting, and I don't know, it was just, I just felt so warm-hearted. But yeah, great work, you all. You did it.
Yeah, I also want to say that I feel like our exhibition is really interesting, that it's all different types of work within one space. And I feel like it's like a one-time experience to go through something like that and see so many dynamic items, and how like we all have different artistic like thought processes and like journeys. So yeah, definitely recommend it. But anyways, I think that's it. I'm gonna sign off, and yeah, I think that's it. I don't know if anyone else has seen some questions. Yeah. Oh, and there's another comment from Tara about the mirrors as well from Taylor. Yes, they were very, very interesting. I love those too. All right, everyone.
I might just finish, Madison, by thanking Tara for the handoff from fall term. We kind of joke about it that it's our we're positioned well for Tara getting things started, and then yeah, me following through in the winter term. I think the teamwork worked really well. So just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, I set him up and you knock him down.
Thank you, Madison. You're a great host.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was really lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone.